tip for when you get licensed and you're in the business. One of your first significant tasks, you want to create a database. Some of you already have a database with your friends and family in it. Good for you. You can begin adding to it. Some of you don't have a database. First of all, you want to select a database that is server-based, not one that is on your hard drive like Excel, not Excel, but Outlook or Outlook Express. Juggler, let me see. I got one up here to recommend. That's RealtyJuggler.com. Yeah. RealtyJuggler.com. RealtyJuggler.com. This is a source of a free database. The database is a loss leader. They want to invite you in to take advantage of the database, but at some point they want to sell you business cards, postcards, marketing materials for you to use. But it's, like I said, it's a loss leader. But it is server-based, meaning you use a username and a password to sign in. So you can access your database anywhere you have internet access. That's important. But here's what you want to do. You want to pretend you're going to get married, okay? And you're going to have a 200 attendee wedding. And you want to think, who would I invite to your wedding? That is literally your mindset. Who would I invite to my wedding? And then you're going to begin acquiring their name, address, city, state, zip, email, and build your database. You've probably heard it. It's called your sphere of influence. I'm just telling you about it in a different way. And you know what? If women usually are in charge of that, and if you've gotten married before and had a wedding, the wedding invitation was a nightmare. It was a job in and of itself. You got to call your mama. Where'd Uncle Doug and Aunt May move? Selma, do you got their new address? You got to call your friend Kim. Didn't Debbie, our third cousin, move to Fort Payne? You got to call a bunch of people to get all this. Did y'all have to do that when you got married, women? I don't know. To put together your wedding invitation list. That's what you're going to have to do. But the mindset is, who would I invite to my wedding? If you can't get their snail mail address, don't be worried. The most important thing is the email address. But if you can get the snail mail, you can go ahead and do it. You could do a postcard mailer one day. You never know. And then once you get your database completed, you're going to send an email announcement, okay, to your entire database. Hey, all the people in the world that I give a damn about, this is going out to all of you. I'm excited as hell. I just got my real estate license and I'm on fire. If there's anybody in your world that you know or love that is interested in purchasing or selling real estate, my job is now officially maximizing people's financial positions in real estate transactions. And then you follow that announcement up with a hard announcement 3 days later. And I would get that done on a nice linen paper, not just a plain copy paper. Hope you got my email. My business card is in here, and there are some hot links to my social media sites. If you would go ahead and include me. I hope to see you soon. But again, in the meantime, if you or any of your friends merely want to know what your house would be worth if you were to attempt to sell it, then give me a call. I have a fancy analysis I can perform for you for free. If you'd like to know what your competition looks like on the inside, let me know when there's a home in your neighborhood for sale, and I will come in and preview it and allow you to go with me. You will get responses to that, because people do want to see the inside of their competition. But that's just a good way to get started. Now you're rolling. Okay, you got to get the announcement going. Now you're rolling, and now you've got a database, and you're going to build that database. Every time you meet someone at a meet and greet, at a social function, a buyer, a seller, other agents, you add them to your database. A lot of you also know that you can segregate your database. You can have church people, you can have old friends, you can have family, you can have my work friends. And the reason why you might want to segregate your database is because you may want to do some specific targeted emails to certain groups. But guys, it blows me away the people in the real estate business who do not even have a database and do regular ongoing email marketing. Because students say, but Mr. Yarber, they delete them. They delete them. But it didn't cost you a damn thing to send it, okay? Didn't cost you a damn thing to send it. But here's the thing, guys. A billboard is what we call in marketing unaggressive marketing, okay? A one-on-one sales presentation is aggressive marketing. A billboard is unaggressive marketing. Do you think unaggressive marketing is effective? You're damn right. Call a billboard company and find out how much it costs to rent a billboard. But all they literally want you to do is look at their image and then look back at the road. That is powerful in marketing. So whenever people are scanning through their emails like me and you do every day, just seeing the fact that whether I deleted it or not, that's a number. And you've ever heard in sales, it's a numbers game. In order for me to sell 100 Cokes, I have to advertise Coca-Cola to 10,000 people. You know, people like Coca-Cola, they have it down to the number. They know how many people they have to expose their name, product, and service to in marketing in order to sell X number of Cokes. They have it down to a science. So it's a numbers game. Don't ever forget that. You would want to do an email once, maybe even twice a month, whether they open it or not, just seeing it. Scroll through is a number, is marketing. They know you're still in the game. They know you're hustling. If they see it and you're doing it month after month after month, they know that you're persistent, and that's a quality they're looking for. That's my one step. Do not begin on your database until you pass this exam, though. Chapter 14, page 255, our learning objectives. We want to describe the steps involved to achieve conveyance of clear and marketable title. We want to talk about closing procedures and the roles of the parties. We want to talk about RESPA again and the Mortgage Improvement Act, Disclosure Improvement Act. And then we'll talk about some debits and credits, and we turn the page. It's a fairly straightforward chapter, closing the real estate transaction. This is a culmination of a lot of people's efforts. And this is when we're about to get paid. If you ever go to a closing, there's a little bit of nervousness you can feel in the room, and there's a little bit of excitement. The buyers and sellers are a little nervous, and you're excited as hell because you're about to get paid. Buyers' concerns. So in this chapter, we're going to talk about what a buyer's concerns are as we head to the closing, and then we'll talk about what the seller's concerns are as we head to the closing. And guess what? These concerns are ridiculously simple. The buyer's concerns. We see a bulleted list. The buyer would want to make sure the results of any inspections that were as part of the loan and or negotiations have been done satisfactorily. That the survey's been done, that the title evidence is there, and any lease. You know, if you're buying investment property with a tenant in it, you want to see the lease. Guys, and guess what? The mortgage company handles this more than you do because the mortgage company is representing you. You just really asking the real estate agent, where do I go to close? That's all. You're not gathering crap. All right. Your mortgage person did all this, and your real estate agent did all this. Next, you see final property inspection, highlight walkthrough. That's what we call it, a final walkthrough. When the final walkthrough takes place nationwide is different per custom. In Alabama, we tend to do the final walkthrough the day before the closing. In some markets, they do the final walkthrough on the day of closing. But the walkthrough is not an opportunity for the buyer to see something they didn't see the first time and think they can halt things and reopen negotiations. They should have seen it the first time. The walkthrough is merely an opportunity to make sure the house is in the same condition it was when they fell in love with it, and that any of the repairs that they had negotiated have been done to their satisfaction. And, you know, perhaps if the utilities are on, the utilities should be on for the walkthrough. But again, and you'll emphasize this to your people. This is not a chance for you to think you can notice something and put a stop on things. We all know what a survey is. Down at the bottom, provides information about the exact location and size of the property. Surveys ain't cheap. They're not terribly expensive, but they're not cheap. In fact, they're hardly done in the modern day. Gosh, most lenders will waive the need for a home inspection if there's been a loan done or a refi done within a recent period of time. But I will tell you this. This is just fodder for class. What I'm about to tell you is not important for the exam. Like I just said, the mortgage company will not require a survey if one has been done recently. But if the buyer moves into the property and discovers a dimension situation, and now there's a dispute with a neighbor, guess who would be liable in a court of law? The buyer's agent. Just because a lender doesn't require it, doesn't mean it's prudent to purchase real estate without a survey. Do y'all understand me? And do you understand you're a fiduciary and it's your job to protect your client? So if the last company I worked for and so forth, we had a blanket disclosure form that we gave the buyer, and one of the clauses on it was, while the lender may not require you purchase a survey and you enjoy that fact because it's going to save you some money, if you go that route, you'll be doing it against our advice. And that one clause will protect you from that one lawsuit. On the next page, 257, this is actually a form that you would find in an FHA loan application file. It's not one that has to be signed or initialed. It is just a form where FHA is telling the buyer, gosh, we hope you get a home inspection, or we wish you got a home inspection. But it is also an explanation that an appraisal is not a home inspection. For whatever reason, a lot of consumers think an appraisal is a home inspection, and it is not. An appraisal is a determination of the value of the property as it is. The inspection is self-explanatory. They're going to notice things and point them out to you. If you could ever tag along with a home inspector, especially as a rookie, I would definitely do that. You learn a lot. If anybody would like to put a home inspector in their phone for their go-to, y'all ready? My brother-in-law. And he's a damn hoot. Y'all come on, give him a call. At least let her do a one with him. He's fun, man, I promise you. And he lives here in Vestavia, about a mile and a half from here. Wayne Littlepage. Yeah, he's been inspecting for 30 years. I'm going to tell you why you're going to call him. 205-746-3477. Put him under home inspector. Wayne does this. He walks the buyer through the property. Now, Wayne is older. How old is Wayne? 50. Wayne is 75. Yeah. No, but you would think he just got back from a concert, outdoor festival. He's kind of a hippie, but he's a genius. He's an engineer. But he walks the buyers through the house and basically holds their hand. He says, you see that? I'm going to write it up on the report. But don't you dare get upset over that, because 8 out of damn 10 homes are going to have that, okay? Because, see, buyers will freak out. Oh, I ain't buying a house wrong with that. He calms them down. That's priceless. It's so valuable. Because most home inspectors walk around like they got the biggest feet in town. And they think they're code inspectors. They in there just dismissing stuff. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. There ain't a damn thing in this house working. But yeah, Wayne is cool as a cucumber. All right, on page 258, title evidence. We've gone through that chapter. We've discussed the fact that you got to have clean title in real estate, just like you got to have clean title in cars. We even talked about this. I'd like for you to come down to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th line in the paragraph and highlight the attorney's opinion is not a guarantee of title. 7 lines down. The attorney's opinion is not a guarantee of title. And why would that be? Because the attorney's opinion is based on the evidence that he has, and some of that evidence, there could be fraud. There could be, forgery. All right, come down 2 more paragraphs. It's a short paragraph, and you'll find 3 words you want to highlight. Mortgage reduction certificate. Mortgage reduction certificate. It's the 3rd paragraph, 3rd line. Mortgage reduction certificate. Jimmy. And then on the left, write on assumption. On assumption. I'll explain after you write. Third paragraph from the top of the page. Okay. 3rd line. Mortgage reduction certificate. And then keep your place, but turn back to page 219. And in the left-hand margin, beside adjustable rate mortgage, write mortgage reduction certificate. I'll explain after we've written mortgage reduction certificate. All right, now that you've gotten those written, we can turn back to page 258. The reason I wanted you to write that there is because that's the assumption page. So when you're studying on your own, you can see it there too. But guys, if you're assuming a loan, tell me if I'm crazy. Do you want to know the details of the loan that you're assuming? Yeah, the interest rate, the balance, what the monthly payment is. I mean, this is an insulting question. The point is, the details of the mortgage that you're assuming is on the mortgage reduction certificate. You know what it should be called? Assumption detail certificate. I don't understand mortgage. What the hell is being reduced? I don't understand. I mean, there's so many words they could have come up with that are just easier. But yeah, you would get that. Mark, this is the loan you're assuming at this percent, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that was the buyer's concerns. And we even said that the mortgage company and your buyer's agent is going to assume those responsibilities for you. Over here, page 259, seller's concerns. Hell, theirs are more simple than the buyer's. Look at here. Seller's main interest is to receive payment. Well, I'll be damned. So the seller will want some assurance that the buyer has obtained the necessary finance and will have the monies to complete the sale. In turn, the seller may have a list of tasks required by the purchase agreement to complete. They're going to do that. Unless the seller owns the property free and clear of any mortgage debt, there'll be a payoff statement. Blah, blah, blah. Real estate professionals' role at closing. What they're about to say in this next 2 paragraphs is not required by law, but what they're trying to say is you should attend closings with your buyers and your sellers. Now, guys, you're not, you may be, but statistically, you're not comfortable with real estate contracts. And it's going to be a minute before you are, but you'll be comfortable with them. And you can only, be uncomfortable with something for so long till you touch it and do it. But to a consumer, a real estate closing is scary. And you're their mama and daddy in their world, and they're lost in the store and they want to hold on to your coat. You're a sense of comfort to them. And you could be of assistance. The closing attorney might say, we're missing this form and you know where it is. Hold on. I'll go to the office and get it and be right back. Only problem with this is if you're a hot shot. Well, first of all, let me make a point. We schedule closings at the end of the month. That's the custom in the business because it lessens the amount of prepaid interest that a buyer has to pay. And if we can lessen the cash requirements for the buyer, it helps them buy sellers' homes. So usually between the 25th and the 30th is when real estate closings are taking place. And you walk into a real estate attorney's office and copiers got smoke coming off of it. People are hustling through there. Paperwork being shuffled. Attend the closing. Again, your sense of comfort. You could put a fire out, so to speak, if one happens. What did I have cocked and ready to say, damn it?
You're talking about big shots for the closings.
Yeah. If you become a big shot and you're closing 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 deals a month, it's going to be difficult, if not impossible, for you to attend all your closings. Okay. Attend the ones you can. And if once you get to cooking, you know this is going to be a problem. So you will stack your closings. I'll have one at 10. I'll have one at 11. I'll have one at 12. I'll have one at 1. And you may have to use different closing attorneys. A lot of realtors, they get married to one closing attorney. I only close with Larry, damn it. They'll be having an argument with a mortgage person. Who the hell are you trying to close with? I fish with Larry, damn it. Get it over to Larry's office. Realtors, you ever see them? They just act like they got a God complex, don't they? It's, what I would do is if there's a conflict and you can't attend them all, you're more than likely going to have a little buddy or two in your office. I'm going to recommend that you do. And y'all both pick the ball up for each other. Maybe you got a house open Sunday, but you got to spend time with your kids. Ask your buddy in the office to do it for you. And now you owe him. You see what I'm saying? Y'all can work together like this. Like a showing. Maybe you got a showing Thursday night, but you're sick. They can show it for you. And then you can owe them a favor. And it doesn't always have to mean you're going to get a piece of their deal. If you're scratching each other's back, you don't have to be giving up pieces of your deal and giving it to them. But you can certainly have that arrangement. Hey, if you take my showing and show properties all day Thursday, I'll give you, X percent, whatever. You could have that arrangement. But I'm trying to lead to this. Ask your buddy, would you please go to my closing? Introduce yourself to my people and tell them you are very important to Mark. And Mark could not be here today. And he said, Mark, I will not let my people be at that closing by themselves. He made me come here. See, when that person says it like that, what do your people think about you? They're like, oh, Mark cares about us. I'll be damned, man. He's looking out for us. I literally would tell them what to say. But yeah, have somebody attend the closing. If you can't get a buddy, ask your broker. Say, broker, when you hired me, by God, you said you'd be there for me. Today's one of them days. I need you to attend my closing at 11 o'clock. And I want you to tell them, Mark said, come hell or high water, will my people be stranded at a closing by themselves. He made me come down here, and I'm his boss. Makes them feel good about you. But yeah, they should have someone representing the company, if not you. They say the same thing on the back, 260. Should the mortgage professional attend the closing? Yes. Why? For the same reasons I just told you. And in fact, guys, the mortgage person is going to have as much of a rapport with your buyer as you do, because they're spending time outside of when they're spending time with you. They're spending time with their mortgage broker on the phone. They got to go meet with them a couple of times and sign crap. Your mortgage professional should attend the closing. And if anybody can put a fire out at the closing, it's the mortgage professional, because more likely the fire is going to be in the mortgage arena. So the mortgage broker could say, hey, y'all, let's don't postpone this closing. I can make a quick run to my office, or I can make a call. Billy, will you scan this and get it to the closing attorney right now? We're sitting here waiting on it. They can really make some things happen at the closing. And, your mortgage professional could attend on your behalf. It'd be great if you and your mortgage professional, but, you could get your mortgage professional to tell your buyer the same thing I told you to tell your buddy to tell your buyer. Yes, social media opportunities. One of my teachers, one of my students just said, yeah, social, taking pictures with the closing attorney and the documents and do a little TikTok. And then at the end of the TikTok, everybody's jumping in the air crying. Like when you buy a new car, And I will tell you this, guys, I'm a firm believer in buying gifts for my customer or my client. I do think I'm a firm believer in it's the thought that counts. I don't think you have to spend a lot of money. I've seen realtors get big screen TVs. That's desperate. But I think you need to spend something, get something that they can tell you spent some time, But I do feel strongly about getting an extra good gift for your closing attorney. Find out what they drink, who their sports teams are, get them tickets. Because, guys, here's what a closing attorney is. I told you they're full in the last week of the month. And he figuratively speaking, got a stack of files to close. And you know what they're doing? They're going at them as they come to them. And you're going to call the closing attorney. My rate expires tomorrow. I got to get this closed today. Because, you only get a rate lock for so long. And if it worsens and your people were tight on their debt to income ratios, it'll throw the deal off. So you tell the closing attorney, I got a deal, my rate's expired. I got to get it closed tomorrow. They'll say, Mr. Yarber, you 8 files down. We'll get to it when we get to it. But if I'm buying that closing attorney something, bottle of whiskey, and the closing attorney's secretary, always buy them something both. And it is a she, and I'm not being sexist, but more often it is a she. She's more powerful than the damn closing attorney. She makes the decisions for them. So I always, why? Because people will say, I got you, Mark, and they'll pull that file out and drop it on the top. The old saying, people do business with people they like, ain't never going to change. IRS, let's go right now. Let's get back into the damn subject. IRS. There are tax consequences on the sale of real estate. So you see there'll be a Form 1099, but I want you to write in the left-hand margin, IRS Form 8300, IRS Form 8300. IRS Form 8300, and then below it, put the $, $10,000. I'll explain. In the 70s and 80s, y'all know what they were doing a lot of cocaine. He just revealed himself. He studied the 80s. That's what he revealed. A lot of cocaine. And the big drug dealers, remember Scarface? They were living high on the hog, living large on cash. And the government, used documentation trails to catch people. And so there weren't documentation trails for these big Uber drug dealers. So they came up with the requirement that any transaction that involves $10,000 or more, there will be an IRS Form 8300. So if you ever walked in to buy a car and pay $10,000 or more cash, there'll be an 8300. If you ever win $10,000 or more in a casino, there'll be a Form 8300. If you pay cash, you get it. You pay $10,000 for anything. Now, do you think because of this rule, there's a lot of $9,999 transactions? Yeah, of course there is. The law's so stupid, crooks can get around damn stuff. But conducting the closing, this is where we really get different market-wise, custom-wise, rather. Grits and cream of wheat, different ways of doing the same thing. Top of page 261. In Alabama, the custom tends to be a face-to-face. Again, I said custom, it's not required. Difference. The custom is face-to-face, meaning the buyer and the seller sit across from each other at a conference table. Face-to-face. The closing agent at the table as well. Now, more often than not, you see in the middle of the page, the closing agent is an attorney, and that attorney is representing the lender. Because we're assuming that there's a loan being closed. I told you 8 out of 10 buyers got to borrow money. So if there's a loan involved, then the lender wants an attorney to handle the closing. I think if you were lending 6 figures to somebody, you'd want a deadgum attorney making sure I's were dotted and T's were crossed. The buyer has the right to bring an attorney, but normally they don't. The seller has the right to bring their attorney, but normally they don't. Only 2 times in my 36 years has somebody brought an attorney. But yeah, face to face. Turn to the page. Closing and escrow is cream of wheat. Face to face is grits. Guys, if this helps you remember, I doubt you'll have these questions, but take my little words. If they help you understand something and write them in, you're not going to remember them. But the cream of wheat, you got the grits, face to face, the cream of wheat, closing and escrow. In fact, if you watch television and you watch the movies, every now and then, as part of the movie, a wife will say to her husband, honey, don't forget, we got escrow Thursday. They're closing on a real estate deal. So the next time you watch TV and movies and they say that, you know what they're talking about. Don't forget, honey, we got escrow. It's closing, but it's not face to face. Now, why do you call it an escrow? Because first of all, look down the page. You see the seller deposits and you see 7 bullets. And then you see the buyer deposits and you see 4 bullets. And they can deposit those on whatever day they want. The buyer may come in on Tuesday and deposit what they have to deposit. And then the seller can come in on Thursday and get the check and leave what they have to leave. It's not on the same day. But the money, when the buyer puts the money will be held in escrow, in an escrow account. An escrow account is just a bank account to hold money for a temporary reason, for any reason. If me and Jimmy had a bet on a football game for $10,000 and neither one of us trusted each other, he'd put $10,000 in an escrow account and I would put $10,000 in an escrow account. Now both of us have the assurance that we're going to pay out. You can use escrow account for anything. But that's why they say close an escrow. It's just a word they use. So grits and cream of wheat, face to face, closing an escrow. Legislation related to closing. You see RESPA. We went over that last night. And here's, if you'll get this in your general thought in your mind, RESPA is for mortgage financing on regular homes. When I say regular homes, families, children. If you understand that, then you understand the 4 bullets that I want you to highlight where it says RESPA does not apply to the following. Loans on large properties, more than 25 acres. Could you have a home on a large property with 25 acres? Yeah, but would it be a usual one? No. So we're thinking of a usual home with mamas and daddies. And a loan on large property is not a usual one. Think of a subdivision. Loans for business or agriculture, that's not a home. Construction loans or other temporary financing, that's bank financing. Remember, I even asked you to write it in the left-hand margin when we talked about RESPA. When we talked about a developer or a builder getting a loan, I told you to write not covered by RESPA. There it is, not covered by RESPA. Construction loans or other temporary financing, not covered by RESPA. And then vacant land. So if you just generally speak, RESPA, just picture a subdivision home. That's what RESPA is concerned with, them kind of transactions. Turn to the page. Top of page 264, affiliated business arrangement. You can write somewhere in the left-hand margin, one-stop shopping. It was around 22 years ago. I think it was coincidentally around the turn of the century, 2000. Somebody told me, they said, Mark, did you hear Walmart selling groceries now? I said, who in the hell would buy groceries at Walmart? I do. I buy groceries at Walmart. But Walmart was the first entity, I believe, to say, we're going to work on this one-stop shopping. Because it was at this point now, women and men both in the work field. And it'd been this way for about 10, 15 years. Time had become much more of a precious commodity than before. We didn't have a woman homemaker handling things. So one-stop shopping was a beautiful thing. I could get my department store crap. I could get me a box fan, get me some duct tape, and get me some silverware. And then I can go over there and get me some Danishes and a can of corn and a neck bone. You know, I mean, and then I can go make a deposit at the bank. I can get my family's portraits. I can get my eyeglasses. I can get my car repaired in the back. I can get me some Mickey D's on the way out. And with all that, you know what half my friends say every day with gritted teeth? I hate Walmart. Why in the hell I find you in there 3 times a week? I have never hated a place so bad that I gritted my teeth and visited it 3 times a week. Why are you going to hate people just trying to sell us cheap stuff? My God. Damn you with your cheaper than stuff. Cheaper than everybody. The hell with you. No, they did. That was one-stop shopping, and it was right in our face, and we loved it. Well, other industries started saying, okay, we see how this is working. Let's get in on that. I don't know about other industries, but I know the real estate industry in the mid-90s said, we're going to get in one-stop shopping. Interestingly enough, I was involved in the conversation. The 5 largest companies in Birmingham, Realty South, First Real Estate, Brigham Williams, 2 others weren't the largest, but you had Pointer and Properties and Ray and Company. Those 5 companies formed Realty South. And they were going to have a Title South, and they were going to have a Mortgage South. They were going to have their own school. And I was interviewing with them to be a part of their Mortgage South. Who told y'all I had a long career in the mortgage business and real estate. It petered out. It didn't work out. It didn't pan out. But yeah, the thinking was Realty South's like, well, we already got you. You've already taken time out of your life. You've given us information. Why make you have to take another day, go meet with somebody? We got Mortgage South. We got somebody coming here at 2 p.m. It would just help save you time so you ain't got to go spend enough. It was a beautiful thing. One-stop shopping. But, you know, I don't know about y'all. There's been times I've been at a car mechanic and the guy will say, I can't fix this, but you need to take it over there. And I'm like, because you own a piece of that over there, don't you? And he's like, well, how'd you know? I was like, no, I just assumed. You see, sometimes one-stop shopping can not be above board, but most often it is. Here are the 2 things that you need to know. They've got 3 bullets right there. Those really should be 2 bullets. The first bullet. If I own 1% or more of the company that I am recommending to you, I must disclose that fact. Now, you know, if I had an ulterior motive to double dip, at least I got to tell you. And frankly, there ain't nothing the matter with double dipping. And the second and third bullet should be combined. I would have to say, now I'm highly recommending these people, but there's other providers. You don't have to choose them. You can choose whoever you want. That's the second and third bullets in one sentence. You know, a lot of real estate companies may have an ownership and a title and closing company. A lot of mortgage companies may have an interest in a title and closing company. That's what I'm about to do. Okay. Other RESPA requirements. If you look, the first 2.5 lines of that paragraph is something we've talked about 4 or 5 times already. The maximum 2-month escrow for taxes and insurance. but go ahead and highlight it. You'll see it when you're outside of class studying, and it's good for repetition. RESPA prohibits the lender from requiring the buyer to deposit funds in an escrow account for tax and insurance that exceed certain limits. Those limits are 2 months. Frankly, the next thing I'm about to ask you to highlight, I have always thought was stupid. But go to the next paragraph and highlight the first sentence. A mortgage service transfer statement is required if the lender intends to sell or assign the right to service the loan to another loan servicer. We talked about that last night, that some people don't fund loans, they just service loans. So what they're saying in that sentence that you just highlighted, if I'm the mortgage loan loan officer and I'm taking a loan application from a borrower, there will be a mortgage servicing transfer statement in that application that they will sign off on, acknowledging that they're aware of the fact that you may sell the right to service this loan. So yeah, guys, I don't know if y'all know this. More than likely, the person cutting y'all a check on a purchase of real estate is not going to service the loan. They will sell it within 60 days post-closing to a loan servicer. I disagree with the fact that this is even being taught at the bottom of page 264, the TRID rule. You see it in the first sentence, TRID. This is so stupid. Guys, I told y'all yesterday and the day before that real estate mortgage financing is double regulated. By Truth in Lending and RESPA. That says up front. This says at closing. Used to, up front, we would get a document. Don't wait until I write all this down so you can see what to write, or even if you want to write it, and I'll give you time to write it. I'll stop and talking. Up front, when we met with the realtor and found a house that we liked and we're going to make an offer, they had to fill out our good faith estimate. You know what a good faith estimate is? The estimated closing statement. Remember we talked about that? The estimated closing statement. I have to provide one to the buyer and the seller. So I have to provide a good faith estimate. It doesn't have to be accurate, hence the word estimate, but it has to be reasonably accurate, hence the words good faith. But it was an estimate from the real estate company to the buyer. If you buy this house, here's what your down payment's going to be, here's what your closing going to be, here's what your monthly payment's going to be. And then when they would go to this is the real estate company, when they would go to the lender and make application for the loan, they would get what we call an upfront. I'm just going to abbreviate TIL, Truth in Lending. Mr. Yarbrough, you're about to borrow $170,000 at 6.5% for 360 months from us. So you see the redundancy. They were both trying to tell the buyer the same thing, but two forms. And then at closing, we got a end of the line deal, a TIL. There's two TILs, an upfront TIL and then a final TIL. This is them telling you what you've agreed to and what's about to happen, and this is them telling you it is now happening. Nothing has changed in this pending period of time. What stood here is still on here. And then at closing on the real estate side, the buyers and sellers got a HUD-1. This was a this was the credit. This was the documentation for the transaction. It showed, it had a buyer column and a seller column, and it showed what everybody paid in that transaction. So there was 4 forms: GF, good faith estimate, the HUD-1 from real estate, the upfront TIL and the final TIL from mortgage, So I forget what year it is. Do they say 2015? They decided to combine these two forms and call it a loan information form. And they decided to combine these two documents and call it a closing disclosure. I haven't been in the business and used these forms. I was using HUD ones, good faith estimates. This has all happened since I've gotten out. As a closing document. The practitioners call this a CD. Took a long time for people to stop to think you were talking about a CD that goes in a stereo. So all it did was clean it up. Instead of 4 forms, it's just now 2 forms. Hence the word integrated. So we had the TILA forms, you see them up there. The RESPA forms were integrated. Integrated meaning combined. And now they call it TRID, which stands for the TRID, the TILA RESPA Integrated Disclosure Rule. The reason I think I don't need to teach this is you weren't in the business in 2015. Why should I tell you how we used to do it? You should just know how we do it now. My doctor's telling me I'm going to have a heart attack by the time I'm 70. So, okay, I just goofed out. It's called the loan estimate form, damn it. But you see it. It's right there in your book, top of page 265, the loan estimate form. And then you see at the bottom of page 265, the closing disclosure form. And then we're going to see examples. But hold on. We still got some work to do on page 265. Now, guys, every industry has corruption. Every industry's got crooked people. And in real estate, the crookedness from lenders tends to come in the last week. I don't need a show of hands, but if you have bought a home, you know what a damn nightmare it is. You got to produce all these documents, you know, and some people keep good records, some people don't. So if you don't, you got to call your credit card and get the last 3 month statements, every one of them. You got to call this, you got to call the bank, you got to go get statements, you got to go, and then, you know, you've handed them all this and you've signed all this paperwork, took the application, then 2 weeks later, they're like, oh, Mr. Yob, I need this too, and I need this. I need you to call them and get this. You're like, damn it, I get that. And then a week later, Mr. Yob, I didn't get this, I need that. And you're like, oh, I got to find people. I got to call the government. And they know that you're mentally and physically being tried. So about 2 days before the closing, they'll go, Mr. Yarber, I know we said we was going to give you 4.5, but the economy turned, you know, the GDP, you know, the unemployment, the report came out. Now the rate's 4.75. Do you want to just shut this down and not do it? What do you think the buyer's going to say? Just get it done, damn it. I'll pay the extra $18 a month. You understand my thinking? If you wait in line for a roller coaster for 3 hours and you thought it was going to cost $10, and when you get up there, they say it's $15, are you going to pay the $15? You damn right you are. They know that's what you're going to do. So the crookedness comes at the end when you're exhausted and you're like, get it done. They'll say, Mr. Yarber, I know we told you that this fee was going to be $426, but this happened, and they always got words for this. You know, this make it sound legit. It's really now it's going to be $800. You just want to shut this down. I'll pay the damn $400. You feel where I'm coming from. So now you understand the premise. These laws came up because of what I just told you. We have always heard of closing costs, okay? But after this rule, the law took closing costs and made them 3 categories. You got a no tolerance category. We're in the middle of page 265. You got a 10% tolerance, and you got an unlimited tolerance. The no tolerance says right there, if I quote you a dollar figure for a cost up front, I got to charge you that at closing. There is no leeway. I cannot change it. There's no tolerance. The 10% tolerance, this is where the government is acknowledging there are some closing costs that will be different if the closing day changes, because now I got to pay more prepaid interest. Now I got to pay, they realize there are a few legitimate fees that might change prior to closing, but you only get 10%. So if I quoted you $300 up front for a certain service, what's the most I could raise it to prior to closing? $330, because 10% of 300 is 30. And then there's an unlimited tolerance. The law acknowledged there are certain costs that the lender can't even affect. The lender has nothing to do with your property taxes, nothing to do with your title insurance, nothing. So there are some fees that the lender can't crookedly manipulate that legitimately could go up. So is an unlimited tolerance of a category closing cost. Go up top, page 265, and in that top paragraph, go to the fourth line and highlight the sentence that says the loan estimate form must be provided to the consumer 3 business days after a loan application is submitted to the lender. Now, this was always true of a good faith estimate, okay? What we would do, what I'm going to do is at the loan application, I'm going to give you a loan estimate form. I'm going to give you that loan estimate form. But then my company's going to send you one in the mail and you'll get it 3 days later. That's just to make sure we meet the law. Just to make sure you tell somebody, oh, they never gave it to me at the table. The hell I did. So we follow up and send it to them in the mail to guarantee they're going to get it. But why? Why should they get it? For obvious reasons. I want to know what's being done to me so I can ask people smarter than me. Is this in keeping with what should happen normally? They want me to have that. Closing disclosure form. Go down to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th line and highlight the rest of the paragraph. The line is the borrower must receive a completed closing disclosure. Last 4 lines of that paragraph. Bottom of page 265, not the last paragraph, but the next to last paragraph, highlight the last 4 lines. The borrower must receive a completed a closing disclosure at least 3 business days before the closing. So we got 2-3 business days. They got to get the first one, the loan information, 3 days after app, and then they got to get the closing disclosure 3 days before closing. Again, guys, knowing the why is going to help you learn. Why do you think the law felt the need to make sure a borrower gets this closing disclosure form 3 days before closing? Yeah. And if something don't look right, they got time to talk to somebody. A mama and a daddy, if you're young, a lawyer, somebody smarter than you, your friend who's in the real estate business, gives me 3 days to make sure everything's on the up and up. That's fair. Now, check this out. Another part of that sentence that you're going to need to know on the exam. If a new disclosure form becomes required for a reason, they give you in parentheses, and this is more likely the reason the closing disclosure would need to be redone. If the rate goes up 1/8 of a point, you see that in parentheses, 0.125? Like I was quoted 4.5. Mr. Yarborough, We thought we could give you 4.5, but we can't. The rate has gone up to 4.625. That is an increase of 0.125. They ain't got to do a damn thing. But if they said, Mr. Yarbrough, we quoted you 4.5. We can't give you 4.5 now. We can give you 4 3/4. That is a quarter bump, not an eighth. That's a 2/8 bump. So it says if the APR increases greater than an eighth. See, in the first one, it just bumped an eighth. No new closing disclosure required. But in the second example, they bumped me a quarter, which is greater than an eighth. Well, then that means you got to do a new closing disclosure form, and the closing will be 3 days later. If they have to do a new closing disclosure form, that's going to bump the closing 3 days later. The closing is always going to be 3 days after the buyer gets a closing disclosure form. So they could have got a closing disclosure form here, but then it had to be changed. Okay, well, the closing changes. And then the closing disclosure's got to change again. Okay, well, now the closing changes again. The closing's always going to be 3 days after they get their most recent closing disclosure. So 3 days after taking app, 3 days before closing, and then the 3 categories of closing costs. So right here on 266, 67, 68, 60 is the example of the loan estimate form. It appears as though you would think it would. You see, we can see in the left-hand column the loan amount, the interest rate, what your monthly payment would be, a prepayment penalty, if there is one. Is this a balloon payment? If so, what's the balloon going to be? How the payment is broke down. What's the principal and interest portion of your payment? What's the mortgage interest, the estimated escrow? Total it up. And then here over here, you've got a place to put some of the fees. They even let you know, hey, services you can shop for, services you cannot shop for. So as a consumer, if the consumer sees services you can shop for, I might look at my mortgage person and go, you mean if I find somebody willing to do a cheaper survey, I could find them? The mortgage person would have to say, yeah. Typically, the applicant follows your lead. You're not going to sit there and open it up for complications. But if they were to stop me and say, does that mean I can do what I want? I would say, yeah. And then the next page on 269 is the actual closing disclosure form. It's the exact same as the loan estimate form, but it has the final figures that are not going to change. These are going to be the figures at closing. This is not an estimate any longer. You see them on, it continues on. Now, back in the day when we used the HUD-1 at closing, both buyer and seller got the same HUD-1. Both buyer, when I'm the buyer, I got my HUD-1. I saw the borrower's columns and I saw the seller's columns filled out. I was privy to know the seller's numbers. They were privy to know my numbers. For whatever reason, because we'd never had a issue with confidentiality with sellers and buyers. I don't understand why, but for some reason, 2015, when they made these TRID changes, they decided they were going to keep them separate. So now a buyer gets a closing form, disclosure form, and the seller's numbers aren't on there. And the seller gets a closing disclosure form, and the buyer's numbers are not on there. So they remain confidential. And, you see a couple of informational pages. And then we're back here on page 274, and that's where we'll be when we come back from break. Let's do 11:15. 11:16. 15. You wear hats? Beanies? You got my beanies?
I don't wear beanies.
Why not? Put it on.
Let's see.
Imagine being in the house. It's a little nice, ain't it?
It is.
You got children? You don't? Does anybody give you a present?
No.
Never, for any reason. Well, first of all, I didn't think these were going to be the answers. Can I adopt you?
Sure.
I mean, damn. I was going to say, if anybody gets you a gift for any reason, I'm getting you a beanie, damn it.
Okay.
Get it before you leave. Not today, but for the class is over. What is your full name?
Timothy C. Carroll. Carroll's like Johnny.
Man, I've got 80 of these.
No.
All sizes, colors, shapes. I've got the ones when I want to look like the kids and I wear my hoodie and I smoke my vape. I've got one that, the young kids wear. Man, to get the younger girls, you got to do what you got to do, man.
I probably would wear it.
Timothy C. what?
Carroll, like John Carroll High School.
Timothy C. Carroll. What's the C stand for?
You do have a heart.
All right, what is your
All
address?
these women.
320 Woodland Village.
320.
Woodland Village. Homewood, Alabama.
Just in case you get away from me, I'll send it to your house. 09.
No, 35216 is on the West Safety side.
35216 mark is right
Interesting, but it seems like if you would have a Homewood,
Yeah,
it
I'm in
would be
Homewood, but I'm
209.
West Davy zip code.
That's weird.
The post office from West Davy. on that.
Very weird. Yeah, and the weird, it depends on what side of the street you are, whether you're 226 or 216.
But I think if you're on Wisteria, if you're on that side, it's Hoover, it's still 35216, even though that's like a West Davy zip code.
Is that right? Yeah, beanies are where it's at, man. In fact, I've gotten so used to them. I mean, I wear them all the time in the winter because you know how like when you take the covers off, even if it's 70 in the house, you still got to put them back on because you've been laying there with the covers on. Yeah, I keep my hat on it all the time. My dogs don't even know what I look like, bald. This is my comfy one. Some are good for looks, some are good for comfort.
Hey, Mom, is that still there?
She wasn't earlier. Karen is. Yeah. You want a beanie?
I do.
Why are all the men only getting beanies?
Yeah, women wear beanies.
Women got the hair.
It don't matter.
Well, you don't need it. We need it. That's an accessory for you, like a necklace or a scarf.
You know, I just.
Oh, what's that look at our scarf?
I said I said a hat would be an accessory to y'all, like a scarf.
You don't agree with,
We
like,
need
cover our ears.
so we don't die.
Yeah, like when we have our
Here,
hair.
I wear beanies. I have a, but I will bring my little print.
Is all of this for you to suggest that I have to now buy a beanie
No.
for everybody in the class?
Yeah.
Or just the women?
Because you said you have them all. You're being sexist. when
That's
you bring
right.
all the men.
Right.
You can like, they just did.
We'll change my Facebook page. Sexist ass Mark.
Yeah, embrace it. Embrace
Yeah. Yes, but I, no, that's sweet though.
Apparently you want a beanie, so I think I will get you one.
But I mean, who else wants one, girls? Raise your hand. Right here, Mark.
Listen, my ears get cold.
I'm an
I pull
advocate
my
for the
hair
women now.
back.
Here's my drink.
You know,
You don't have any beanies?
I do. I will wear mine tomorrow just to show you.
All girls wear your
Where
beanies.
we have, and it's stylish, and it's a sexy one, and it's a button print.
Yeah.
What?
So, okay, can you move on that?
Oh, yeah, we in the magazine.
The magazine.
No.
Oh, look at the magazine. The little front page is, a friend of mine, the one who graduated from high school.
Yeah. Yeah,
What was you in there for?
we were at the game. We just at basketball game, and the girls going around there taking the
Take
photos.
your pictures.
Yeah, we don't keep moving around.
Oh.
I think I had it for a couple days. I just go through my mail off of my counter.
My sister stayed on her little Facebook page. She tagged me on and my sister called me and said, "We found somebody."
hurt my back.
Somehow.
Well, I have scoliosis, so I used to, have trouble standing. But, I was looking at stuff, and when I do that, I always screw it up, and I just, yeah. Especially when you're young.
Yeah.
And now, being old and having back issues, but when you're young, certain people judge you and then look at you and you don't have back issues.
Every once in a while, I'll do something like put my socks on. And then it'll be like, feel like I got shot in the back. And I'm like, "Son, what happened?"
Hers was so bad it was protruding her left side. You could look at our beach pictures and you can see her, she was like, this was coming out. So she had to have surgery.
Yeah.
Oh, man. You don't have
I
like,
got somebody,
you got no expression of pain.
well, they have casts that they can, that they do not breathe. They
Yeah.
have casts first and then it's like, she can breathe. They're trying to straighten her up.
I was thinking, prayer line, something like that.
I'm really, trying not to.
I wonder why Missy Alba against do this every time. Piece of feet in the office. I don't see what you mean.
Oh, I don't know. Did he bring it in? Oh.
I thought you went up to the office. and-
Well, I went because I'm nervous, after that midterm, I didn't know when I was registering about the insurance and, all that, so I was like, well, it's $150 and 2 more chances and to take that payment, so I just, I didn't know.
So is the credit course not on TV?
No.
It's not on
It's
the
not.
Okay, so I have several friends.
They swear by, they encourage, it says it could do
16
Yeah,
But I get, apparently he's like.
and that 16 points would help me because I made a 67 and I was just.
Whenever I signed up for the course, it was a thing online that said guaranteed 2 more times to take the test. It was like $49 and it was $90.
He said that was
Extra to take the cram course. And I went ahead and paid it because it wasn't supposed to be on there, but since I'd already paid it. I think I did.
So you're good.
So if you've already done it when you signed up.
I guess I didn't pay attention, I
I
was
paid
just
the
more.
49.
looking for the
I think
class.
I wonder if I did it 49 or not. I did do the 49 because I was like, I'm not gonna do no cram, but
Everybody comes to do the credit card.
Yes, all day Friday,
it's one day, yeah, all day.
all day Friday. I'm like,
It's on our syllabus.
I won't sleep until
It is
Until it's done.
it's done. I mean,
cram
that's just-
course, it's on February
I'm
24th.
putting 100% in, I just
Well, I've already
tell
missed it.
myself I have to.
Well, 400.
Oh, yeah.
Shit.
But
I'm
everybody
talking about the
else.
time and studying and I'm just everything.
Can they tell you in the office?
You should go look up your receipt.
Jerry, I thought you wanted to give us some study sessions together.
I put something out there.
And I responded and
Now,
nobody, that was it.
did you see anybody else respond?
Wait,
where?
In the Google Classroom?
Well, it might be on the old, it might be on the old.
I don't even.
Like on this week somewhere?
We definitely need to special like.
The grade
Yeah.
was Friday, all
That
day.
would be great.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a 9 to 5.
I'm with you.
Use card.
I don't care. Like, get it done and.
See, I wish I could already like,
That's
I said that, I should have a date ready to go to myself. What is that?
I didn't need it. You know what?
Not lost.
It's not even.
Oh, I'm gonna spell backwards. I got it. It's gonna be
It's
fine.
already on to the, you get too much. See, I
Okay,
didn't.
Sarah, this is not, this is against code. That is against code. How can we do that? I work for a dock company and somebody's doing that there's no way that I'll.
I was like, huh? It's like, what's happening? But, I'm like, you know, end up wearing damn things. So it's mine.
That was the.
That was very sweet. That was sweet.
He's a hard butt, but he just like.
And I like it because that's me. Did you see what you did? And, yep.
He said he doesn't.
I'm ready to go.
I mean, you probably could, but I mean, once you got it, but I got the.
Well, this is not even over there right now, so it's Karen, so she didn't know. But that's what she told me. She said
Because
she-
remember when we first started, we said, okay, it was messed up. It wasn't supposed to be worded the way it was, because I only know the 49, and he's actually the 150 to do the extra test and the. He said it was wrong. I think when they done that 25% off or whatever, it must have messed it up. So it's 150, you get to take the test twice. Yeah, I still owe 90. I didn't.
Well, we're gonna get it. We got this. We just, I'm telling y'all, if y'all are doing that Quizlet, that's what has helped me. That's what prepared me for, you know, the questions and how they're asking. But, and that's how my.
If you go on also, did you order them off the line? Did you order them off this website or Amazon?
Yeah.
They've also got a thing in there that's got questions.
You know, they got different basic
There's
words.
one website, yeah, you can accept, it says Dear, D-E, it's an app that you can.
Did it cost?
This one does, this first one.
As soon as you go in here,
I got it.
it's got like.
Yeah,
I'm less worried about
You can
that.
go through the questions, and then you go back on and you'll say like, harder questions than harder questions.
You got 6
And it'll
months.
do like, how many you got right, how many you got wrong, and you go back.
It's a DEA.
Yeah, it's good one.
Right, right. How soon do we have to schedule that?
Yeah, I'll know.
The current classes, they can
The state.
as soon as you pass this class, you said we'll have to test final screening.
So you posted that in Google Class?
Oh, I put it on the-
Or on the prep page? Okay.
Right.
This contract with Booker just got put out in my situation last year, and saying, yeah, we staff, and so you'd rather this stuff. But yeah, if they might, they might. Yeah. But see, Did you always have a realtor or two that were exclusive to you? Yes. No, they.
It's got a great life.
So, would you say that some subdivisions require one company?
I'm not even that.
So, this is for the developer, right? It's effectively the developer is selling this physical.
It is memorized.
Right. Always wondered why not. Trust you.
Just a little bit.
Lumber shooting is more popular. Do you put lumber shooting back? Used to. I don't, we don't do it anymore. Yeah.
Is Diane told me she
The realtor that I know,
We
that
make
just
questions,
said,
sure.
he said,
They're always new.
he said he didn't study. He said he didn't study.
Were you doing anything at the end?
Because it was all he said he just didn't take it serious. And all of a sudden,
You got involved in like a central control panel. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sure, yeah.
Mr. Yarborough,
Hey,
are you ever gonna, have different things to do?
I'll change it.
I mean, no, it's your business. If you do the same thing every day, then that's cool.
It's really just some people who decide today to give a damn about me, my family, and my future.
Oh, that, yeah.
I thought about changing one day to see if you would notice.
Oh, I wouldn't notice. Go get this thing on my back cleared up at the doctor. Here we go. I'm tardy, y'all. I apologize. 3 minutes tardy. So here we go. We're back in it. And we are on 274. Highlight the first 4 lines of the top paragraph. The Consumer Finance Protection Bureau developed an information booklet called Your Home Loan Toolkit. This is provided by the mortgage person to the applicant, and it's frankly just a layman's explanation for the buyer of what to expect during this process. But I have heard it's on the exam. Your Home Toolkit. It's a little information booklet. Kickbacks and referrals, we know that they are not allowed. So, for repetition, we one more time get to see that. And then down at the bottom, the Mortgage Disclosure Improvement Act. The Mortgage Disclosure Improvement Act is the reason for all that we've been talking about, frankly. The 3 categories of closing costs. If the rate goes higher than 1/8 of a point, a new CD has to be created and the closing day set 3 days later, etc. So they're reminding you there again that the not last paragraph, but the next to last paragraph, the last 4 lines remind you generally if the APR increases more than 1/8 from that stated in the CD, the creditor must provide a new disclosure with a revised APR and wait an additional 3 days. We've covered that to the point where you probably got that memorized by now. Now over here on page 275, there may be a couple of questions where you're asked if a certain item on the disclosure, is this a debit for the seller or a debit for the buyer? Is it a credit for the seller or is it a credit for the buyer? Now, guys, one of the 3 classes I failed in college. I humble myself before classes. Was accounting 3. I hated accounting. It was the only class I ever cheated on in college. And I didn't cheat. Back then I had a little calculator about as big as a business card, and it had a top, a little flip top. You could close it out and put it in your pocket. So I had just written down a formula and put it on the inside of the thing. I was looking at the formula. Only time I cheated. Well, I cheated once in high school too. Only once. You know how your senior year, you got to write that big paper, with the bibliography and the footnotes and all that. Well, it was I forget the name of the term paper, but I didn't do it. And here it was the night before we had to turn it in. And the girl I was dating, I was over at her house. And we both had the same teacher for English, different periods. But he gave both periods the exact same paper. So I copied hers word for word. Word for word. Now it's taking two different periods, so many. It's gotta look like a blur to the teacher. How would he notice? The kicker is I got an A, she got a C. So if y'all don't think grading is subjective, you're a little too naive. But I hate debits and credits. I hate accounting. Taxes and accounting has always been the booger bear for me. It scares me. It makes me feel like a retarded kid. I'm just not good at it. So I figured out how to make this ultra easy for y'all if you're like in the same boat as me. Let's just start off with something simple. A debit is bad, a credit is good. So that's just the beginning principle. If you see something as a credit on your side of the column, then that's good. If you see a debit on your side of the column, it's bad. Why? Because a debit is an expense. And anytime I got to reach in my billfold, it ain't good. It's bad. So if we just grasp that caveman logic, that honest to God will probably help you get a question right. So, let's say that there wasn't a such thing as a fancy closing disclosure form. And I have a listing and we receive an offer from an interested party. So I'm going to sit down here with a legal pad and a pen and a calculator, and I'm going to show the seller the scene. Okay, seller, we're selling your house for $200. And we got a full price offer at 6%. So a 12,000. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm doing a different exercise. So, Mr. Seller, we sold your house for $200. I'm going to show you on this page what you're going to take home from the closing when the dust settles. From this $200, you're going to have to subtract your mortgage balance. That's $117,000. You're going to have to subtract my commission at 6%. That's $12,000. You're going to have to subtract $2,000 because the buyer asked you to pay $2,000 of their closing costs. You're going to have to subtract $650 for your closing costs. See, guys, there are two kinds of closing costs. There's seller paid closing costs and there's purchaser paid closing costs. Depending on where in the state you are, the seller's closing costs are going to be anywhere from $500 to $800. And then I say, you paid your taxes. See, some states, gang, let me come back to this. Some states, most states, pay taxes in advance, like rent. You pay June's rent on June the 1st. So most states, the property owner pays the property taxes on January 1. Now, Alabama is weird. And frankly, I don't know how many states in the United States are like us in this regard, but there can't be many. We pay state taxes in arrears. It would be like paying June's rent on June 30th. We pay for a year's taxes at the end of the year. The reason I'm making this point is because it depends. If I am in a state that pays taxes in advance, and let's just say this state's fiscal year is the calendar year, we're just going to make it easy. So on January 1, I paid for all of 2023 property taxes. Do y'all see that if I sell my house to you on July 1, we close, am I not entitled to the second half of the year in a refund? I am. And there's a way to figure that out. Let's say I have $1,486 of annual taxes. Divide that by 12, and I get $123.83 a month. But let's divide $123.83 by 30. You see what daily taxes are. Okay, daily taxes are $413. So this is monthly. This is daily. So I'm selling to you, and we're closing on July 14th. Now, guys, every month for prorating on the exam, every year is going to be a 360-day year. They don't want you, the student, to be thinking, is January 31-day month? Or is it 30? Is February? What is March? Is that 31 and 30? So every month, that's 30 days. 30 times 12 is 360. That makes the math easy. So if I paid for a full year on January, and I'm closing with you on July 14th, that means I get all of December back, all of November, all of October, all of September, all of August. So that would be this times 5. But then we said August 14. So that means I'm deserving of a 16-day refund in that month, right? 16 days from July 14 to September 1. So I would multiply this times 16. So 123.83 times 5 is 619.550, 15. And then $4.13 times 5, times 16. $4.13 times 16 is 6608. So I just add them up. So that would mean I get a $685.23 refund. So right here on this form, I say, now you're going to get a refund of $623. What was the change? I forget. 23. So you're going to get a refund of $623.33. And then I would do all that math. Let's just do 200 minus 117 minus 12 minus 2 minus 650. Oops. Gosh, dog it. He would net $676.23. He would walk away from that closing with a cashier's check for $68,676. So basically, all of this is on the closing disclosure form, but in a fancier format. Now, what if I had paid my taxes? What if we paid taxes in arrears? On July 14, I will owe all of August, all of September, all of October, damn it, I'm wrong. On July 14, I would owe all of January, February, March, April, May, June, and 14 days of July. So 6 times that and then the 14 days of this if I paid in advance. More than likely, you're going to have a property tax proration question just like I did. It's easy, okay? Look, I wish they had a form. They do have a tax form. First of all, hold on. Let's do this. Right here on page 275, how the closing statement works, debits and credits. So from beyond debits and credits, they just start showing you items that are going to be on the CD that could be either debits or credits, the broker's commission, the attorney's fees, the recording expenses, the transfer tax, the title expenses, the loan fees, the tax and insurance reserves, the appraisal fee, the survey fee, the additional fees, the accounting for expenses. All of that is going to be subtracted on the CD, okay, or added. It depends on whose column. But once you get over here to page 278, the first bullet, highlight the first sentence. In most states, the seller owns the property on the day of closing. So there could be two answer choices on a question that are 1 day's taxes apart. In other words, there could be one question that says 623.33. Or what was 1 day's worth of taxes? $4.13. Or it could be 619.29. These are 1 day apart. Oh, I did 13. That's 20. These are 1 day apart, but they'll be offered as answer choices. What's the answer going to be? The seller owns the day of closing. So I don't have a scenario to go with this, but okay. The seller pays for the day of closing. That's 633.30. Oh, the purchaser doesn't pay for the day of closing. Oh, then it's 619. So just remember that rule. Seller pays for the actual day of closing when you're adding up the number of days like we just did. Seller pays for the day of closing. And like I said, you're going to see two answer choices that are 1 day prorated apart. So come over here to page 280. The top of the page. Assume a sale is to be closed on September 17th. Using a 360-day year, prorate the taxes of $3,600 for the period of 8 months and 7 days. Now let's do this before we read any more into the question. I like to just do daily. I could do 3,600 divided by 360, which is the days in a year, or at least for exam purposes, and I get $1. Is that $1? $10 a day? I think it's $10 a day, isn't it? Yep, that would be $10 a day. So for 8 months and 17 days, 8 times 30 is 240. 240 plus 17 is 257. So I would just multiply this times 257. And I get 2,570. So in this example, do they even have 2,000? Yeah, they have 2,570. See, they did it like I did the first time. I did 8 months at 30 days. That's 2,400. And then I broke it down to the $10 per day for the 17 days. That's 170. And then you added up 2,570. Now, that could either be a refund or it could be the amount owed, depending on whether it's just paid in arrears or paid in advance. But I'm going to tell you, based on feedback I get, there are never questions on a paid in arrear. They're all paid in advance. And I think they even make it easier for the student. Every tax year will be a calendar year. So you got a calendar year, and every day has 30 days. And you either need to know, did the person pay in advance or in arrears? That will determine whether they're going to owe or whether they're going to get something back. And we just figured out how to prorate the calendar year and determine the daily tax. Over here on page 281, they talk about some prepaid items. This isn't important for you to know. But, you know, utilities typically represent prepaid items. The taxes and insurance reserves typically are prepaid items. Nothing important right there. So we're now on our key point review, 283. Let's spend our 15 solid minutes. We'll almost be through at break next time when we get there. 15 minutes is over. I gotta. Well, but you can continue working on what you're doing. But if you, when you want to get out for a break, what in the heck? We'll do break till 12:08. So if y'all want to keep finishing what you're doing, great. But we're gonna break it till 12:08 whenever you decide to get up. We'll see y'all back here in a bit.
fixing to say chat syndrome.
I even had the word unmute. Y'all, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for having to repeat what I just said. We're on the second half of page 288. We know what a lien is. A lien is a legal instrument that is used in lieu of the fact that the lender doesn't have physical possession of your collateral. The lien prevents the borrower from transferring ownership to the item in question without satisfying the balance at the time of the transfer. Second half of the page are 6 types of liens. I want you to highlight them all except for tax lien and vendor's lien. There's 8 of them up there. Highlight them all except tax lien and vendor's lien. Now, a voluntary lien, let's get them out. Let's just go one down. Let's walk down the line. A voluntary lien is easy. It's the easiest of the 6 to understand. If you voluntarily borrow money and buy something and a lien comes against it, then that's a voluntary lien. Your car has a voluntary lien on it. Your home has a voluntary lien on it. An involuntary lien is one that comes against your will. I just used an example while on mute. If I get sued from somebody and they win a money judgment against me for $80,000, that is going to attach to all of my assets. It's going to attach to my home if I own a home. I didn't voluntarily get sued and lose in a court of law. So that would be an involuntary lien. Every owner of real estate in Alabama wakes up October 1, which is the first day of our fiscal year, with a tax lien. The tax lien is going to force you to pay the accrued taxes at the time if you sell during the calendar year. Nobody voluntarily pays taxes. So your property tax lien is an involuntary lien. Let's talk about a statutory lien. Guys, if you don't know, the word statute means law. So this is a lien that has come about as a result of law. And once again, I'll use a property tax lien. Property tax lien is a mechanism of the law. The law says we have to pay taxes. So already we are seeing 2 of these mix and mingle, because like I can be a tall guy, I can be a white guy, I can be a-hole, but I can also be all 3 of those. I can be a tall, white a-hole. These can mix and mingle. So now we can say that our property tax lien is an involuntary statutory lien. Let's talk about an equitable lien. Guys, the words have different meanings. Wood is something you can burn. Wood is something you may do. Equity, we know what equity is. It's what's in your property. If you sell it, you get it. If you refinance, you pull it out. It's cash, yours. But this is not the context of equity. Equity in this context means fairness. You might have heard somebody go, this would be an equitable situation for both you and I. Fair for me, fair for you, equitably. Now, in America, we don't put debtors in jail. Some countries do. We don't. But if I put $5,000 on a Sears credit card and then I just walk away from it and I don't pay it, they're going to attempt to collect. They're going to make some nasty phone calls. They're going to send me some intimidating letters. But at some time in the life of that debt, they want to wash their hands of it. So they're going to sue you. That's what the law says they have the right. Since they can't put a debtor in jail, the law says the creditor should at least have the right to pursue their debt in court and get a lien. So if Sears sues me because I owed them some money, that would be an equitable lien. It's just fair that they should be able to pursue me. Let's go to the bottom and talk about specific liens. Then we'll talk about general liens. Specific liens is where if there's when the lien's associated with something, they want to repossess it if you default. Okay. If you don't pay your property taxes, they're going to take your property. So now we have decided that the property tax lien on your home is an involuntary, statutory, specific lien. The lien on your car is a specific lien. Why? They're trying to hunt it. If you ain't paid it, they want it. If they want the item that the debt is associated with, and they gonna come get it, it's a specific lien. The mortgage on your home is a specific lien. You know what? It's a voluntary specific lien. The lien on my car is a voluntary specific lien. So let's talk about a general lien, and I'll use Sears as another example. I go in and put $5,000 on a Sears card. I buy me a lawnmower, I buy me some tools, and I get some cheap, untrendy clothes. But then I stop paying them. Sears comes at me and sues me for the judgment, for the balance. Do they want the lawnmower and the tools and the cheap clothes? No, they just want the money. That's a general lien. So if they don't want specifically, they just want the money, it's a general lien. So we can now say that the lien from Sears on that lawsuit is an involuntary, equitable, general lien. Do you see how all those fit? So top of page 289, effective lien on title, it affects it negatively. You're not going to have clean title with liens on it. Now, you know, I've sat here and said you don't want to buy a house with liens on it, and that's pretty true. But sometimes you want a house real bad, and maybe the lien's only $368. I don't know if y'all know this. Alabama Power sells appliances, and I can go get me a refrigerator at Alabama Power, and they'll just put my little $86 a month payment on my power bill. But what if I move out, or what if I go broke and I stop making my power bill and I stop making my fridge bill? Well, that damn fridge lien for $368 is on the property. And if I want the property bad enough and I don't want somebody else to get it, hell, I'll pay the damn lien. Y'all understand that? The seller might say, I can't pay the lien, Mark. Does that mean you can't buy my house? No, I want your damn house. I'll pay the lien. So I'm just trying to say, just because there's a lien on a title doesn't mean you're not going to buy the house. It could be a situation like that. But it does negatively affect the property. And again, priority of liens, we talk about that all the time. Page 290, still talking about liens, but now we're talking specifically about property tax liens. Here on the exam that you need to know that our property tax system is called the ad valorem tax system. If you look within that first sentence, it says ad valorem is Latin. It means according to value, meaning the taxes on your property in America are related to the value of your property. A lot of countries, guys, they don't care what the value of your property is. Every lot has the same exact tax dollars. Where it's more fair in America. It's relative to the value. Everybody pays the same rate, not the same amount, the same rate. Now, property tax dollars is one of the largest sources of government tax revenue. And it is the earmarked money. Property tax, education monies are earmarked out of property tax dollars. A lot of people got their hands in the bucket of property tax dollars. You see the states, counties, cities, school district, drainage district, hospital, water, sanitary. A lot of people got their hands in the pot of property tax money. But it funds our education system. Now, I want to remind y'all of something that you may not be aware of. Are y'all aware that we pay the least property taxes in the United States?
Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama.
By far.
Yep. Are y'all aware that we tend to show up at the bottom of educational statistics? Are you now doing math in your head? Or hell, maybe you can't do that math. Damn it, you didn't get the joke. Are y'all putting two and two together? We pay the lowest in property taxes, but we at the bottom of the educational system. And education, Now, our youngins coming home, dragging their jaw, drooling, and we want them schools to learn our kids up better. But don't let a property tax increase referendum vote come up, because we don't vote no. We vote hell no. We want to have our cake and eat it too. That's what we want. So over here on page 291, you see assessment. There is a formula that every state uses to determine your property taxes. And when they use this formula, they come up with your assessed value. I hear lay people all the time talking about, my property worth, 175. I said, where'd you get that? A property tax assessment. Stop trying to determine your value of your property by the property tax assessment, because it's futile. Now, the only time I think that the property taxes are accurate is if there's been a recent sale. If there's a recent sale, then you got new numbers on the book, and then your property taxes are accurate. But some people live in their house 20, 30 years. So how does my value get updated? Very loosely, not like an appraiser does. They do have some formula that takes into consideration some comparisons that might have sold, but their database is not the MLS database. It's dated, it's full of errors. You just don't want to rely on the assessed value as a lay person trying to figure out what your properties were. Now, the equalization. Guys, have y'all noticed something? That the districts that pay the highest taxes got the nicest school. You ever notice that? We know now why. But since people vote no in the areas that want better schools, they vote no, they vote no, they vote no. Government came up with an equalization factor. In some jurisdictions, when it is necessary to correct inequalities in statewide tax assessments, an assessed equalization factor is used to achieve uniformity to alleviate that disparity. Tax rates. First sentence I'd like for you to highlight. The process of arriving at a real estate tax rate begins with the adoption of a budget by each district. Now, that's kind of a duh statement, but not really. You do not go to vacation and get off the plane and then go to your room and sit down and figure out how much money you should have brought. You figure out how much money you're going to need before you go on vacation to ensure you're going to have enough. It would be silly to assess at the end of the year and realize that the tax revenues were not enough for government. So you decide at the beginning of the year with a budget what the taxes are needed, and then you assess property at a rate that will generate the amount that you need. It's really very commonsensical. It's almost an insulting statement. But I hear it's on a quiz, so. Okay, up here, page 292, we're about to do some math, so, don't get scared. We're going to talk about the assessment process. The third paragraph I'd like for you to read with me. The tax rate could be stated in a number of ways. In many areas, it's expressed in mills. A mill, which is short for millage, a mill is 1/1000th of a dollar, which is the equivalent of .001. Tax rate could be expressed as a mills per dollar ratio. For instance, dollars per hundred or dollars per thousand. You could see a tax rate of 0.032, which mathematically is equivalent to 3.2%, which mathematically is equivalent to 32 mills, which mathematically is equivalent to 320 per 100, which mathematically is equivalent to 32 per 1,000. Here's a for instance. 10 dimes are $1, 4 quarters are $1, 100 pennies are $1, 50 pennies and 2 quarters are $1, 50 pennies and 5 dimes are $1. They're all units of measurement that all total the same thing. So they're saying basically nickels, dimes, and quarters in different ratios are the same thing. I'm going to give you examples. Okay, you know how to do. We talk about it and then we go up on the board. But we're not going to do that yet. We're still talking. There's going to be some questions when I do this in the quiz. At the bottom of page 292, enforcement of tax liens. You got to pay your taxes. Okay, just like you got to pay your mortgage. If you don't pay your mortgage, you're in trouble. If you don't pay your taxes, you're in trouble. If you don't pay your mortgage, you're going to get the acceleration letter. If you don't pay your taxes, you're going to get a letter. Okay. And that illustration on page 224, let's go back to it. 224. Right in the middle of the page, you see that illustration. The tax is very similar. Data default is where you get the letter from the state saying, Mr. Yarborough, we've reached out to you to pay your taxes. You haven't responded. So now we're going to auction your property tax debt off on this day. You have an equitable right of redemption. If I can scrape up that money and go satisfy the state, I halt the auction. But let's say the auction takes place. Now, guys, your property is not what's being auctioned off like at the mortgage foreclosure. Your tax debt is being auctioned off. Now, guys, we have established the fact that debt is a commodity and it is bought and sold amongst investors. It's very common. So let's say I owe $1,200 on my property taxes. That is going to be the opening bid. I've heard that's a question on the exam. Why would the state auction off the debt for less than they're owed? That would be stupid as hell, wouldn't it? Yes, it would be. Yeah.
I got lost there.
You just need me to go back to where?
The first sentence before that, you said this is probably not, I hear this is on the exam.
The bottom of page 291, the process of arriving at a real estate tax rate begins with the adoption of a budget. I heard somehow that's on a quiz. I don't know how, but it's not a hard fact to remember. Okay, now we're on enforcement of tax liens. Back to the illustration. The opening bid will be the taxes owed. The state would be silly for auctioning it off for less than what they're owed. Their goal is to get what they're owed. So $1,200 is the opening bid. And then, let's say it bids out at $1,450. The winning bidder gets the debt for $1,450. Well, if you want to redeem your property through the statutory right of redemption, you'll do it through the state. You're not going to deal directly with the person that won the bid at the auction. You'll go through the state, but you will pay this person back what they paid for the debt. And it's probably going to be a lot more than what the debt actually was. That's the booger. I did only owe $1,200. Now what if they auctioned it off for $2,000? I owe $2,000 now. Plus an interest rate. Okay, there'd be no reason for someone to want to buy debt at an auction. They don't make the difference of $1,200 and $2,000. The state does. They get the interest rate. I hear it's about 11%. And again, I don't know where you come from. That's a fair return, 11%. You don't need to know that, so don't write it down. Point is, I'm going to have to come in here during my statutory right of redemption, pay the person back what they paid for the debt plus an interest rate. Now let's come back to page 293. You see at the top of page 293, they call it a tax sale. In the middle, in the next paragraph, the big paragraph, you see italicized certificate of sale. So the highest bidder will receive a certificate of sale. It's italicized in the second paragraph, page 293. It's italicized on the second paragraph. I will receive I don't receive a deed. I receive a certificate of sale. Now, one second. Once the equitable, before equitable, after statutory. Once the statutory right of redemption expires, in the third paragraph, you see it, statutory right of redemption, highlight it. Once the statutory right of redemption expires, then the high bidder receives a tax deed. He got a certificate of sale at the auction, but then once the statutory right expires, he gets a tax deed. And at this point, he can have the sheriff remove the people from the property. Point is, I don't know if you just gathered, the person who's delinquent on their taxes can remain in the property during the statutory period. Now in Alabama, that's 3 years. Yeah. Now at a tax sale, I'm just telling you, you don't need to know this. If an individual does not buy the tax burden, and that does happen sometimes, the state is required to buy it. Isn't that stupid? It's the state's debt. And then they're required to buy their debt, effectively doubling their debt. You gotta be stupid. Point being is if the state buys your tax debt, you have a 5-year right of redemption. You don't need to know that. The 3 and the 5 is just me giving you a little information. It's not on the exam. I just want you to know that I do not get a deed as the high bidder. I get a certificate of sale. And the people get to remain in the property. And then after the right of redemption expires, I get a tax deed. And that's at that point I can have the sheriff remove them from the property. So the before sale, equitable, after sale statutory applies to taxes as well. Second half of the page. Special assessments, local improvement districts. Guys, they may come in and improve your area. You may live on a road, they come in and pave it. You live on a dirt road, they come in and pave it. There's a bill for that. I think the state assumes 60% of the bill, and then they pass the balance, the 40, on to all the property owners that benefit from it. Here's the thinking. Your property values are going to increase because of the improvement, so they want you to have some of your flesh in it, you know. So you will get your, well, I just used a pave. They could pave a dirt road. They could curb a paved road. They could put sidewalks. They could put bike trails. They could put fancy street lights, like in a subdivision. Regardless, like I say, you will get your percentage of the bill. They prorate it relative to the square feet of each lot or each property. Now, when you get your special assessment bill, understand a special assessment is a first cousin of property taxes. It puts a lien on the property. Now, when I receive my assessment bill as the property owner, I have the right to pay it in full, be done with it, or set it up and pay it over a term. I think they let you pay it over 10 years at like 6% interest. Again, I shouldn't even be throwing these numbers out, but pretty fair. They're pretty fair with the arrangements they allow. What do you think most people elect to do? Pay it in payments. Y'all can just yell, Ronald McDonald out. I don't care. You know, just a little activity, damn it. Yeah, I'll riff on you. Yeah, give me something to riff on. Special assessment. What I was trying to arrive at, since most people elect to make it in monthly payments, it's very likely in many instances when a purchaser is wanting to buy a property that there is a lien for that special assessment. You don't need to know what I'm saying right now, but sometimes a lender will not allow their borrower to assume the special assessment. They will require the seller to pay the balance out of their proceeds. Some lenders have no problems with a buyer assuming the balance. I'm just telling you that for food for thought. It's not important on the exam. Turn the page to 294. We're still talking about liens. That's the subject. We now know what a mortgage lien is, a specific voluntary lien. How about that? We got to see it. It's a specific lien and a voluntary lien given to a lender by a borrower as security for a loan. Now, a mechanic's lien, highlight the first sentence. Probably have one question on a mechanic's lien. So here's my little story to explain a mechanic's lien. So what if I've got an old house, but I'm also a bettor, a gambler, and I'm in Hawk. I'm in Hawk $48,000 to my bookmaker, and he's threatening to cut parts of my body off. And nobody's going to lend me any money, and I don't have any equity in the property. And I think maybe I'll bring some contractors in, jazz this joint up like they do on Like It or List It. I'm going to jazz this joint up, sell it, take that increased value as a result of improving it, pay my bookie off, get out of Hawk. What am I not planning on doing? Paying the cats that did the damn work. So you see what I'm doing? I'm going to benefit from their work, but I'm going to give them the shaft. I ain't going to pay them. Well, this happened. So a mechanic's lien is a specific involuntary lien that gives security to persons or companies that perform labor or furnish material to improve real property. The ability to file a mechanic's lien extends to contractors, subcontractors, or architects, equipment lessors, surveyors, laborers, anybody involved. In the next paragraph, go to the end of the second line and begin highlighting the sentence that reads, a person claiming a mechanic's lien must file a notice of lien in the public record of the county where the property is located within a certain time after the work has been completed. Those times differ from state to state. You don't need to know the times. You just need to know that conceptually, you have to file the lien in the county where the property is, okay? Because I may be the general contractor. I did the work on your home in Jefferson County, but I live in Talladega. And I filed the lien in Talladega. I just did wrong. Even though I live in Talladega, I'm going to file the lien where the improvement was done. And within a certain amount of time. You know, every state has different. Some states have 6 months, within 3 months, within 48 hours, within a year, blah, blah, blah. You don't need to know it. I think it's 6 months in Alabama for a GC, 4 months for a subcontractor. I'm just thinking out loud. You don't need to know that. A judgment over here on page 295. We know what it is. Somebody sues you. That's what they win against you. A judgment. Money judgment specifically. Now, what if I sued you? And that's everybody looking at me. I sued you for $10 million. And I walk out of court going, yeah. What am I going to get from you? Not $1 million. Point is most people ain't got that kind of money. So you win in court and you feel good, but you don't get nothing for it. Maybe some satisfaction. But there could be an occasion where you sue somebody for an amount of money and they got something, or you suspect they got something and they hiding it. Come down to the third paragraph and highlight writ of execution. I can file that writ with the courts. This will compel the courts to discover if you own anything, and then subsequently force the sale of whatever you own. Like if a telephone pole that's being worked on falls through my grandma's house and kills her dead, and we sue Alabama Power, and we win a judgment for $1.2 million, and 6 months go by and we keep bothering them. My attorney keeps bothering, where's our damn money? At some point in time, I'm going to file a writ with the courts. Because I know Alabama Power's got it. They got plenty. So I'm going to file a writ of execution, and this compels the court to discover if you own anything and then sell it. Liz Pendens, we learned. Is there one person in here that's brave enough to tell me what they think it is based on the first time we talked about it? I didn't think so. Lis pendens is Latin that means lawsuit pending. Write it down, damn it. Put it in quotation marks. Lawsuit pending. Just so that when you're flipping through, you see it. Guys, we talked about the fact that you don't want to buy real estate with liens on it from the previous owners. Because if liens from previous owners rear their ugly head during your ownership, you got to pay them. Now, most of us, we get hip to liens because we borrow money and the lender requires a title search. And the title search discovers any liens protecting us. But I said that's if you get financing. Maybe I'm going to be paying $100,000 cash for a particular piece of property. So I think, I should at least call the title insurance company and see what a policy would be. I call them up. I said, what a policy be on this? It would be $2,700, Mr. Yarber. And I say, my God. And I get off the phone. I'm thinking, man, that's pricey. Ain't going to be no problems with this. I'm scratching my head and I'm thinking about rolling the dice. Thinking about taking the risk, not having title insurance. But, if you weren't going to get a mechanic to look up under a used car, if you knew a little bit about cars, you might get up under it and look, right? Maybe you see something, maybe you won't. That's the thinking here. I don't want to pay the $2,700 for the title insurance policy, but I want to get up under the car and look myself. So I can go to the courthouse. I can pull the individual up because they may have liens on them that's not associated with the property. I can pull the property up. I can see liens. But that's not what happens. Maybe there's no liens on this property, but the owner of the property is coincidentally involved in a pending lawsuit where he's being sued. And what's the potential in a lawsuit where he's going to lose? A lien could come about. So when I go to the courthouse record and I pull up on the microfiche the property, figuratively speaking, a red flag pops up. It's the Lis pendens flag. It's a warning. Hey, Mark, be careful with this dude. There ain't no liens on the property right now, but he is involved in a pending lawsuit and a lien could come about in the very near future. Because what if the lien came about on him on the 3rd of the month and the attorney that beat him hauled butt and recorded the lien, and then I bought the property 3 days later unaware that just happened 3 days ago. And the reason Lis pendens is important is there are a lot of people being sued at all times, and there are a lot of people being sued. They know damn well they're going to lose. It's just a matter of when is the evidence going to be presented in court, I know I'm going to lose. Do you know what people who know they're going to lose a lawsuit do? They sell off all of their assets to their family and friends. So that the day they lose in court, they look across the room and go, I ain't got nothing. Huh? Yeah, good for you, but I ain't got nothing. That's a ploy. So that's why the Lis pendens. Because what's this dude trying to do? He's trying to sell his property before the court rendering comes. So that's the Lis pendens. It's just a warning. Look out, Mark. Dude is involved in a pending lawsuit. Attachment. This kind of goes back to what I was saying. Some people know damn well they're going to lose, so they try to liquidate before they lose. Well, if I have a sneaky feeling that you're going to try to do that, I'm going to attach your assets. Attachment is a fancy word for a word you've heard of, freezing assets. You ever heard that? Somebody froze my assets. Like if you get a letter from the IRS, Mr. Yarber, it's been determined that you misreported your taxes from the years 2019 through the years 2021. In fact, you owe us $48,000. And it's in your best interest to get a hold of us. And let's handle this. I ignore that for about 2 or 3 months. And then one day I'm in Arby's on Valentine's Day with my old lady, and they declined my credit card. I said, well, try this one. They decline it. I said, try this one. They decline it. I said, well, damn, will you hold my girlfriend hostage while I go to the teller? And I go to the ATM. It eats my card. The IRS has frozen my assets. They don't want me spending my money my savings, my checking, my credit card, and nothing. So yeah, right. Freezing assets, if that helps you, you know. You'll see attachment. It very well could be an answer, but more than likely be a wrong answer choice to a question where there's another right answer. And over here on page 296. Over here on page 296, they're just finishing the conversation, listing various types of liens. Liens for municipal utilities. Guys, I have a friend that used to manage a super Walmart. Is that what they call them? Super Walmart. Y'all know what a super Walmart's power bill is every day? Yes. $40,000.
A day?
A day. A month. I'm sorry. Yeah, not a day. Yeah, my bad. I see why y'all's freaking out. So what does 40 break down to 30? About over 1,000 a day. Yeah. Nevertheless, now you can see why they might have liens. Maybe the Walmart don't pay their $45,000 bill, you know. Bail bond lien, I've had a couple of them. IRS tax lien at the bottom of page 296. I want you to highlight the third to last sentence. It reads, its priority, however, is based on the date of filing or recording. And if you're highlighting, underline the next part. It does not supersede previously recorded liens, which to me has always blown my mind because you know how the IRS is. They usually get what they want. So guys, I told you, whenever you belly up financially, the courts will take your assets, sell them at a cash sale, so to speak, put the money in a pot, invite all the people that suffered from your financial ruin to come get some money out of the pot. If you owe the state of Alabama any money, they're up front. They have priority. They're number one in line. So government does, but not federal. State gets priority. They're number one. And then all your other lien holders are in the order of the chronological order that they recorded their deed, which is why we keep impressing the importance of recording your deed quickly to establish your priority. So yeah, state in front, and then hell, the IRS could be in the damn back. But they got to get in line with Sears and J.C. Penney's and all of them. So now we're going to do a 15 minutes, guys. We got 12:58. Let's do it to 1:13. And then I'm going to let y'all get out of here. Who's Jada? Jada Green? Is she not in here? She's back in my night classes. Gotcha. Oh yeah. All right, y'all can hang out and finish if you want, but if not, class is over. So satellite students, moderators, let your students sign, and we'll see y'all tomorrow. We are doing 2 chapters tomorrow, 16 and 17. Virtual students as well. Be prepared. And y'all have a good evening. We'll see y'all in the morning.